In the heart of the desert, a city of stone began to stir. Nomadic traders, the Nabateans, sought a permanent home. They chose a valley shielded by towering sandstone cliffs. This natural fortress was almost impenetrable. A single, winding gorge, the Sikh, was its main entrance. Water, the most precious resource, was masterfully managed here. The Nabateans engineered dams to capture flash floods. They carved cisterns deep into the rock to store the captured water. Clay pipes formed a complex network throughout the settlement. This hydrological genius allowed a city to bloom in the arid landscape. Petra was born not just of stone, but of water. Its strategic location was paramount to its success. The city sat at the crossroads of ancient trade routes. Caravans laden with frankincense traveled from southern Arabia to myrrh, another valuable resin, passed through its gates. Spices from India made their long journey through this valley. The Nabateans grew wealthy by controlling this flow of goods. They levied taxes on every caravan that sought passage and protection. This income funded the city's spectacular architectural ambitions. Soft sandstone cliffs were a perfect canvas. Entire facades were hewn directly from the living rock. Tombs, temples, and monuments emerged from the mountainside. The most famous of these is Al-Khazneh, the treasury. Its Corinthian columns display a Hellenistic influence. The monastery, at Deir, required a strenuous climb to reach. Its scale is even more massive than the treasury. A street of facades showcased rows of impressive tombs. A great theater was also carved into the rock. It could seat thousands of spectators. The city thrived, a bustling metropolis of trade and culture. But the world outside Petra was changing. The ambitious Roman Empire was expanding eastward. In 106 AD, the Romans annexed the Nabatean kingdom. Petra became the capital of the Roman province of Arabia Petraea. Initially, the city continued to prosper under Roman rule. The Romans even added their own structures, like a colonnaded street. However, the city's fundamental importance began to wane. The Romans were masters of the sea. They began to favor maritime trade routes over land-based caravans. Shipping goods via the Red Sea and Egypt was more efficient. This shift slowly choked the lifeblood of Petra. Lucrative incense and spice trade was diverted elsewhere. Rival cities, like Palmyra in Syria, rose in prominence. Palmyra was better positioned to serve the new Roman trade networks. Petra's income dwindled, and its influence faded. The grand construction project ceased. The city began a slow, quiet decline. Then, nature delivered a devastating blow. In the year 363 AD, a powerful earthquake struck the region. Many of Petra's freestanding monuments were toppled. Great Colonnaded Street was severely damaged. The city's intricate water system was crippled. Dams were breached, and channels were destroyed. Without its carefully managed water supply, life became precarious. The inhabitants who remained struggled to rebuild. But the city's economic heart was no longer beating. The population began to shrink significantly. Families likely moved to more fertile lands nearby. The rise of Christianity had also transformed the city. The urn tomb was converted into a church. But this new faith could not reverse the economic decline. Another major earthquake struck in 551 AD. This event caused further destruction and sealed the city's fate. The remaining population dwindled to a small village. The grand avenues were now quiet and empty. By the time of the early Islamic era, Petra was a shadow of its former self. It was no longer a center of commerce or power. The city was largely abandoned to the desert. Its location was forgotten by the outside world. Only the local Bedouin tribes knew of its existence. They used the cool tombs for shelter. For centuries, Petra remained a secret held by the sands. The lost city slept, waiting to be rediscovered. The abandonment was not an event, but a long, slow process. It was a story of shifting trade, a changing climate, and the relentless power of the earth. Great civilization of the Nabateans had faded into memory. The rose-red city was left to silence and the wind. Its decline began with the redirection of global commerce. Human ambition had built Petra, and human ambition bypassed it. The city's isolation, once a strength, became a fatal weakness. No longer essential, it was slowly starved of wealth and people. The earth's tremors were merely the final, violent punctuation. The first quake broke the city's bones. The second broke its spirit. Remaining inhabitants were subsistence dwellers, not city builders. They lived among the ghosts of their ancestors' grandeur. The intricate facades watched over a dwindling population. The great theater no longer heard applause. The colonnaded street was a path for goats, not for legions. The sophisticated water channels were choked with debris. The desert began its patient work of reclamation. Wind and sand smoothed the sharp edges of the carvings. Flash floods, no longer controlled, washed away the lower city. The memory of Petra vanished from the maps of the world. It became a legend, a rumored city of stone. The Bedouins who lived there kept its secrets well. They called the valley Wadi Musa, the Valley of Moses. The city's true name and history were lost to its inhabitants. Petra's abandonment is a lesson in the fragility of civilization. It shows how reliant even the greatest cities are on their economic context. A shift in a trade route can be more devastating than an army. It also speaks to the awesome power of the natural world. The earth shudders, and the works of humanity crumble. City stories carved in its stones. It tells of ingenuity in the face of scarcity. It speaks of wealth born from a river of spice and silk. It whispers of the pride of kings and the ambition of merchants. It chronicles the arrival of a new empire and a new god. And it records the slow, inevitable retreat of human presence. The silence of Petra is filled with these unspoken histories. Each carved facade is a page in a stone book. The city was not lost, merely waiting. Its abandonment preserved it from the ravages of continuous settlement. The dry climate kept the sandstone from eroding completely. The isolation protected it from plunderers for many years. The story of its end is also the story of its preservation. Nabateans built a city for eternity. They carved their legacy into the mountains themselves. But they could not command the currents of history, nor could they chain the trembling earth. So the people left. One by one, the houses fell silent. The markets ceased their clamor. The temples heard no more prayers. The water channels ran dry for the last time. The desert reclaimed its own. The Nabateans mastered the desert, creating an oasis of life. Their wealth was built on the desire for luxury from distant lands. This dependence on a single, fragile economic model was a hidden vulnerability. When the world's trade winds shifted, Petra was left in a calm. The city's decline was a quiet fading, not a dramatic fall. The great earthquake was a symptom of this decline, not its sole cause. A healthy, vibrant city might have rebuilt with vigor. But a city already weakened could not recover from such a blow. The final abandonment was an act of pragmatism, not defeat. Inhabitants sought survival and sustenance over sentiment. The grand tombs were impractical homes for the few who remained. And so, the city returned to the stone from which it was carved. Its story became one of absence and silence, a testament to the fact that nothing built by human hands is truly permanent. The legacy of Petra is not just in its remaining structures. It is in the questions it forces us to ask about our own civilizations,